Hello, and welcome to Apache News, the news show that brings you only positive news from around the world. Today we're looking at the positive news from the month of March 2024. Sources for all the news stories today will be linked in the description. If there's no link for a source and it just states the news channel name, that's because I got the news story from that news channel and couldn't find a website link or video to it. I can't actually show any footage in this video as they're copyrighted. Apologies in advance for that and not being able to link sources in some cases. But now, let's get started. Starting off, our first news story is about a new species of sea slug. It's been discovered in British waters by a pair of marine researchers. They were on a routine survey off the southwest coast when they discovered the Pleura brechia britannica. On the right-hand side of the slug is a 1 centimeter feather-like structure, which is the gill of the slug. This was also the first thing the researchers noticed. Gills on the sea slugs are usually on the middle of their back, so it's unusual for it to be on its side. That's not the only discovery, as a new plant species has been discovered that feeds on fungi, a behavior that hasn't been seen before. This plant is called Badger's candleholder and was discovered in Japan. This is the first plant to be discovered in the region for almost 100 years. This plant is part of what's known as fairy lanterns. They don't engage in photosynthesis. Instead, they feed on fungal mycelia in the ground. They are extremely rare and difficult to find. The researchers explained that fairy lanterns are often hidden under leaves and produce above-ground flowers for a brief period that look like they're made of glass. A grey whale, who has been extinct in the Atlantic Ocean for more than 200 years, has been spotted. In this incredibly rare event, a New England survey team spotted the grey whale off the coast of the region. The aquarium scientists were flying 30 miles south of Nantucket when they saw the whale. It repeatedly dove and resurfaced and seemed to be feeding. Grey whales are regularly found in the North Pacific Ocean and are easily recognized from other whale species by the lack of a dorsal fin, mottled grey and white skin, and a dorsal hump followed by pronounced ridges. They disappeared from the Atlantic Ocean by the 18th century, but in the last 15 years, there have been 5 observations in the Atlantic and Mediterranean Oceans. They've even been spotted off the coast of Florida in the US in December 2023. Scientists solved the bloop sound and other underwater sounds. For the last 2 decades, scientists have been puzzled by a mysterious rumble known as the bloop. Recorded in 1997, this enigmatic noise, along with others like boing and the slowdown, has sparked many theories from what these sounds could be, such as secret military exercises to unknown sea creatures. Using hydrophones spread across the Pacific Ocean, researchers have discovered that these sounds come from ice quakes in Antarctica. Ice quakes is a seismic event caused by cracking action in frozen soil or rock that's saturated with water, ice, or by stresses generated by frozen lakes. The Northern Lights could be seen across the UK. Also known as Aurora Borealis, it could be seen in Anglesey in North Wales, Glenelg in the Highlands of Scotland, Giant's Causeway in County Antrim in Northern Ireland, and in Crosby Beach in Merseyside in England. Pennsylvania's Bureau of Wildlife Management is working on an experiment to reintroduce the American marten back to woods and hills in the Keystone State. The American marten was extirpated from the US state 100 years ago, but a plan to change that will be discussed in April. The BWF believes that because the marten has lived in Pennsylvania recently, reintroducing them will help bring the ecosystem into better balance. The marten can help with seed dispersal and rodent control. A new cheap and non-invasive test for oral cancer has been developed. Oral cancers are difficult to diagnose, but this new test is less stressful for patients, as well as results being determined in as little as 30 minutes. It works on a scoring system linked to the levels of 2 proteins in cells which can be brushed from suspicious oral lesions at dental clinics or by ear, nose and throat doctors. One of the proteins, called HBD-3, is at high levels in early stage oral cancer, whereas the other protein, HBD-2, is low or unchanged. A score above a predetermined threshold implies cancer, anything below does not. This is done routinely in a lab. A newly discovered bird fossil, which is the first toothless bird of its kind, has been named in honor of naturalist David Attenborough. The bird has been named Imparvorous Attenbury, which means Attenborough's strange bird. Sir David Attenborough said, "It is a great honor to have one's name attached to a fossil, particularly one as spectacular and important as this. It seems the history of birds is more complex than we knew." The fossil was found by an amateur fossil collector near the village of Tudai Yingzi in northeastern China and donated to the Shandong Tianyu Museum of Nature. All birds are dinosaurs, so this bird fossil is in fact a dinosaur fossil. This new bird or dinosaur fossil was a member of a group of birds called opposite birds, named as such because their shoulder joints are opposite from modern birds. These opposite birds were once the most diverse groups of birds but went extinct 66 million years ago from the meteor disaster that killed most dinosaurs, but not all of them. Archaeologists unearthed the top half of the Pharaoh Ramses II statue nearly 100 years after finding the legs of him in Egypt. They found his head, torso, and shoulders, which fit perfectly with his lower half, which has been kept in a museum for decades. Now with the two halves together, it is 23 feet tall. The Pharaoh Ramses II depicts him sitting with a crown shaped like a cobra, which is a symbol of kingship. The back of the statue is covered in hieroglyphs that list his many titles. A new drug approved on the NHS in England can be used to treat some types of womb cancer. It's called dostarlimab and is an immunotherapy drug. It works by training your immune system to target the cancer cells. This, in combination with chemotherapy, has been shown to be a lot more successful, especially of this type of cancer. Dostarlimab treatment itself takes only half an hour and has very few side effects. Microscopic worms found in Chernobyl could help human cancer research. These worms were taken from soil and rotten fruit from areas in the disaster zone, some taken from areas with low amounts of radiation and others from high amounts of radiation. The researchers found that these worms were resilient to radiation and showed no signs of harm to the creature. They say that the worms didn't evolve, they're just more resilient to radiation. Scientists have 3D scanned thousands of creatures to create incredible, intricate images for people around the world to look at. This is part of a project called Open Vertebrate, which is a 5-year collaboration among natural history museums. Starting in 2017, the OVER team took more than 13,000 CT scans of species of trees, amphibians, reptiles, fish, and mammals. A benefit of all these scans is that anyone, anywhere in the world can look at these creatures in immense detail without the need to transport the specimens, which could damage them. Because they're scans, multiple people can look at the scans of a particular specimen at the same time. A new study suggests bumblebees share knowledge in the same way humans do. In the study, a bee was taught to solve a puzzle and was rewarded a sugary treat. They observed that the bee then trained the other bees to complete the same puzzle. Some demonstrator bees were then shown how to complete a second puzzle, which was more complex. The bees individually were given 24 days to try and complete the puzzle, but none of them were able to. But these demonstrator bees showed them how, and the rest of the bees were able to complete the puzzle without a sugary reward. A fossilized forest has been discovered in Minehead, Somerset in the UK. It's 390 million years old and is believed to be the world's oldest known forest. The fossilized trees were found in a cliff by a team of scientists from Cambridge and Cardiff universities. These trees didn't have woody trunks. These trunks were made out of little strands of wood joined together internally. They may have looked a little bit like palm trees. These types of trees were around for about 5 million years. In a world first, a woman has been given a 3D printed windpipe. A team of scientists, doctors, and engineers in Korea have made the windpipe from other people's nasal stem cells and cartilage cells. It also contains polyprolactone for structural support. The woman, who is in her 50s, is recovering in a hospital in Korea. Hollywood celebrities and some Oppenheimer actors have called for abolishing nuclear weapons in an open letter. A group called the Nuclear Threat Initiative is using the open letter to draw attention to the issue with nuclear weapons highlighted in the Oppenheimer film. They demand that global leaders work towards nuclear disarmament and a brighter future. The group are also promoting their message on posters and billboards in Los Angeles in the US. A giant statue of Atlas has been put back together to guard Sicily's Valley of the Temples. A 20-year restoration project on the island of Sicily has led to the restoration of the 8-meter-high statue of Atlas, who is the god who holds up the world in Greek mythology. 38 of these massive statues were once held in the Temple of Zeus, built in the Golden Age of ancient Greece. It is also the largest Doric-style structure ever built. Research and surveys showed that the 38 Atlases were frozen in between the large Doric columns to hold up a massive roof, but that roof was never built. Scientists in Indonesia have found that artificially transplanting coral reefs can grow as fast as naturally occurring reefs in just 4 years. Many coral reefs around the world are believed to be threatened by stronger storms and acidic seas. This study has found that as long as corals can survive in the water, humans can quickly rebuild reefs that are damaged. Reef growth is important to keep up with the sea level rise, protecting coastlines from storms and erosion, and to provide a habitat for coral reef animals. Wasabi can save ancient papyrus manuscripts from fungal contamination. In this study, the team created papyrus sheets and baked them in the oven to simulate years of weathering. Then they exposed the papyrus to microscopic fungi commonly found on ancient scrolls, gradually mixing water with wasabi until it reached a dumpling-like state. They hung the papyrus in a way that ensures the fumes from the wasabi lump could cover the whole scroll. After 3 days, the fungal contamination had been cleared without any trace of it remaining. All of the pigments and physical characteristics remained undisturbed, and the wasabi even increased the scroll's textile strength. A 10-year-old has raised $81,000 to help fund history projects that tell the story of the attack on Pearl Harbor. The 10-year-old boy raised the money by collecting donations from door to door, selling patriotic popsicles, and public speaking. What inspired him to do this was a history project in school. He was fascinated by the event and began to study it more by reading books and old newspapers and even speaking to survivors of the attack. After visiting a Pearl Harbor memorial in Ohio in the US, he became motivated to start a campaign to ensure that the heroes and victims of the event will never be forgotten. A rare collection of seashells assembled during the final voyage of Captain Cook has been found in the skip. They were accidentally put in the skip in the 1980s. The collection of more than 200 shells was found by a university lecturer and includes some of the first ever to arrive in the UK from New Zealand. An African tree planting scheme called Trees for the Future is trying to bring back Africa's forests. So far, 41,000 hectares has been turned into forest farms where native trees anchor a diverse mixed subsistence and cash crops that's more friendly to birds and insects than monocrop agriculture. Trees for the Future is different than other tree planting schemes, as their goal is to create 230,000 jobs, which they also believe will result in around 1 billion trees being planted. This scheme has pilot projects in 9 countries, one of which is in Kigoma on the Kenyan shore of Lake Victoria, and is making real progress. New research from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute shows that sound could be a vital tool in the effort to restore coral reefs. Healthy reefs are noisy and are filled with sounds like croaks, purrs, and grunts from various fish, snapping from shrimps. Researchers discovered that replaying these sounds caused larvae to settle up to 7 times more often than if the sounds weren't replayed. Replaying these sounds can help save our coral reefs. Heaps of gold and artifacts have been uncovered in a 1,200-year-old pre-Columbian tomb in Panama. These items were recovered from a site called El Cano. Archaeologists believe the tomb was built for a 40-year-old religious man. The tomb dates from 750 to 800 CE. He was bedecked in gold, so he was clearly a leader, and with the presence of the type of artifacts found, he may have maintained long-distance connections with other chieftains. The treasure included 5 golden pectoral ornaments, 2 belts made entirely of golden beads, 4 bracelets, 8 earrings, 2 of which were human figures, a man and a woman, 1 in the shape of a double crocodile, and 5 of gold-plated sperm whale teeth. There was also 1 necklace of small circular beads, a set of circular plates, and 2 bells. Volunteers have planted 1 million moss cuttings in Chew Reservoir in Greater Manchester in the UK to restore bog and improve water quality. Started in 2012, volunteers have been planting moss in the area ever since. As well as making the area look better, this has also helped prevent any more erosion in the streams nearby and has helped prevent flooding. The moss they've been planting is sphagnum moss. The volunteers have donated over 45,000 hours of their time to replant these moss cuttings. Peat and rock dams have also been set up to trap water and provide habitat for birds, amphibians, and insects. A team of international scientists are carrying out an experiment in the Arctic Circle to see if they can stop sea ice from melting. They're trying to thicken the ice by pouring salt water on it. The seawater freezes and thickens the ice. The goal is to stop or even reverse the loss of sea ice. They pump around 1,000 litres of seawater per minute. The sea ice is the air conditioning system for the entire planet, so it's really important that something is done about the melting sea ice. A company in Dubai buys used cooking oil and turns it into biofuel to help reduce CO2 emissions. The company doing this is Luta Biofuels, and the resulting biofuel they produce is cheaper, renewable, and clean compared to fossil fuels. They pay providers such as restaurants, bakeries, and food chains for their cooking oil. These providers produce 500,000 litres of waste oil every month. Luta Biofuels said they converted this waste oil into 770 tons of biofuel last year. A golden nugget has been found in England and is the largest ever found in England. This was despite using a metal detector that wasn't working properly. The gold nugget was found by a 67-year-old man who travelled to Shropshire and found it during an expedition. The gold nugget weighs 64.8 grams. He found this gold nugget just 20 minutes after starting to detect the area, and the nugget was about 5 to 6 inches in the ground. Soon everyone will be able to see what the astronauts see when looking down on Earth 250 miles up in the International Space Station. A British company called SEN is sending a 4K camera up and attaching it to the ISS, which will give us 2 views of Earth 24 hours a day. One view will be straight down and be able to view a couple hundred kilometers across. The other view will be of the horizon of Earth, which will allow us to see sunsets, sunrises, and the Northern Lights. This project has been nearly a decade in the making. In a recent study, researchers have concluded that Beethoven didn't inherit his musical talents from his ancestors. The researchers say this is a good example that DNA doesn't determine what will be developed in life. So Ludwig van Beethoven, in fact, learned how to make great music instead of inheriting it. Researchers at Pennsylvania University in the US have achieved a major breakthrough by being the first team to 3D print human skin tissue directly onto open wounds. Building on prior trials of 3D printing tissue, the researchers took a layered approach this time. Printing the hypodermis and middle dermis layers allowed the epidermis to grow over time, which resulted in seamless tissue regeneration. This new breakthrough can be used on open wounds as well as regenerating hair follicles. Exhausted immune cells, as they're called, could be a new target used in preventing breast cancer. Cambridge University researchers have discovered this new pathway which involves targeting mutations in BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes. Everyone has these genes, but mutations in these genes, which can be inherited, increase the risk of breast and ovarian cancer. The study found that immune cells in breast tissue of healthy women carrying these gene mutations show signs of malfunction known as exhaustion. These exhausted immune cells can't clear out damaged breast cells, which can develop into breast cancer. There are drugs that overcome this, but it has so far only been used in late-stage breast cancer. These drugs may be used as a preventative in the early stages of breast cancer. Kombucha makes several changes to the way fat is metabolized in the gut and intestines in a very similar way as fasting. Researchers at the University of North Carolina in the US have looked at how microbes in kombucha affected the overall microbiome of the GI tract. They found that as the yeast and bacteria colonized the gut, expression in the genes responsible for fatty acid metabolism changed. The changes expressed more proteins that break down fat and fewer proteins that turn fats into triglycerides. This is similar to what goes on in the body during fasting. When this happens after drinking kombucha, it happens whether you eat or you don't. So it's like fasting without actually fasting. By cleaving apart and using fats for energy rather than for storage, the microbes in kombucha replicate fasting. Now on to our last news story for today. Scotland has beefed up animal welfare laws in a new bill. Under the new rules, police are given more powers to investigate wildlife crime, and shooting estates must apply for licenses to burn moors. The Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals said that the bill would bring us another step closer to making Scotland the best place in the world for an animal to call home. Activists are calling for the government in England to apply a similar bill. That's all of the positive news stories I have found over the last month that I thought were the most interesting. There are, of course, other positive things going on in the world, though that weren't discussed in this video. Some of the sources have related links to other news articles you may like, so feel free to look around. There may be something I didn't discuss in this video that you're interested in. As I said at the beginning of the video, links to the sources of these news stories are linked in the description. I've dated these stories based on when they were first published. I've tried to get the original source and the date for them, but I couldn't find them in some cases. I also mainly reported on positive news stories that I was interested in or liked, or that I thought were nice stories that I wanted to share. I tried to report on others, but I simply didn't enjoy it at all. I'm doing all of this on my own, but if I continue to do this and get help in the future, I'll report on positive news stories, even if I'm not that interested in them. I enjoyed doing this more when I reported on things that were positive, but that I was also interested in, or at least thought was quite interesting. Sorry about this, but like I said, if I keep doing this and get help in the future, I'll report on more things. I might not report on everything, but I'll report on more things in the future if I keep doing this. But with all that said, I hope you enjoyed watching this video and enjoyed watching Apache News. Thanks very much for watching and have a nice month.